My boyfriend's mom treated me like a stranger, but when she found out who my parents were, she was shocked. I always knew my boyfriend's mom hated me. From the very first moment I met her, I could tell. It wasn't anything she said outright. No, she was too polished for that. It was in the little things. The way she shook my hand, limp and cold, like she was touching something unpleasant. The way she barely made eye contact, scanning me up and down as if assessing every flaw she could find. The way her lips curved into a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She had already decided I wasn't good enough before I even had a chance. It didn't matter that Ryan and I had been together for almost 2 years, that I had a stable career, worked hard, and treated her son with love and respect. To her, I was never going to measure up. Not like Emily. Emily, the perfect ex-girlfriend. The one his mother still adored, even though she and Ryan had broken up years ago. She was exactly the kind of woman she wanted for her son. Rich, well-connected, and effortlessly elegant. She came from a distinguished family, one that attended all the right events, mingled with all the right people. Emily was successful, polished, and most importantly, someone my boyfriend's mother could proudly show off. I, on the other hand, just some girl Ryan was dating. At first, it was subtle. A little comment here, a passive-aggressive jab there. Oh, Emily always used to make the most delightful homemade gifts for us. It's such a shame that tradition ended. Emily was such a fantastic planner. She always made sure Ryan had everything he needed, never let him forget a thing. I ran into Emily the other day. She looks stunning. She's doing so well for herself. Such a strong, independent woman. Every mention of Emily was like a little knife, sharp and deliberate, cutting into my place in Ryan's life. Then it got worse. She started inviting Emily to family events. Not just once, but regularly. Holidays, birthdays, even casual Sunday brunches. She wasn't just lingering in conversation anymore. She was there, in Ryan's home, in his family photos, sitting at his family table, and his mom made sure I noticed. One Thanksgiving, she actually had the nerve to seat Emily next to Ryan at dinner, while I was shoved 2 seats away. Another time, at a casual family barbecue, she took a picture of Ryan and Emily standing together and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "So wonderful to have the family all together again." I tried to be the bigger person. I told myself she'd come around eventually, that if I kept being kind, she'd see that I wasn't some villain who had stolen her son, that Ryan chose to be with me. But then came the dinner invitation, a formal family dinner. "A very special occasion," she said. Her voice was too sweet, like she was practically daring me to question it. "I expect you both to be there. It's important." Something about the way she said it felt off. Ryan noticed it too. On the way there, he even squeezed my hand and whispered, "Just ignore whatever she does tonight. Okay? I know she can be a lot." I should have trusted my instincts. Because when we arrived at that dinner, I walked straight into the biggest power play of my life. And I wasn't about to let it slide. The second I stepped into the dining room, I felt it. That shift in energy. The tension that made the air feel just a little thicker, a little harder to breathe. And then I saw her. Emily. Sitting comfortably at the dinner table, right next to Ryan's dad like she belonged there. She was laughing at something he said, her hand resting lightly on his arm as if she'd done it 100 times before. She looked relaxed, at home, as if she was just another member of the family. And Ryan's mom? She was practically glowing. "Oh, there you are," she said when we walked in, as if we were the late arrivals to Emily's dinner, not the other way around. Come, we were just catching up with dear Emily. It's been far too long." Ryan froze next to me. His grip on my hand tightened, just for a second before he let go. I turned to look at him, expecting him to be as shocked as I was, but his face was unreadable. He shouldn't have been surprised. This wasn't the first time his mom had pulled something like this. But this was a new level of disrespect. I forced a polite smile. "Oh, I didn't realize Emily would be joining us tonight. Ryan's mom's eyes gleamed. Well, she is family after all. I felt my stomach turn. Family. I pulled out my chair and sat down, pretending I didn't notice how Emily was watching me like she knew exactly what was going on. Ryan, to his credit, sat next to me instead of across from Emily. His mom definitely noticed and pursed her lips, but she didn't say anything. His dad, blissfully unaware, or maybe just uninterested in the tension, kept chatting with Emily like nothing was wrong. So, Emily, Ryan's mom said sweetly, picking up her wine glass. Have you decided yet? About the trip? I blinked. Trip? Ryan's mom turned to me, her expression the picture of innocence. Oh, dear. Did Ryan not tell you? We're planning a family trip to Italy next month. We do it every year. It's a wonderful little tradition. I glanced at Ryan. His jaw clenched. Funny. He hadn't mentioned any of this to me. But before he could even say a word, Emily smiled. I was just telling them I'd love to come, she said, setting her wine glass down with a delicate clink. Ryan's mom beamed. Oh, we'd love to have you. It wouldn't feel the same without you. And then she looked at me. And I knew. This wasn't just a trip. This was a message. She wasn't inviting me. She never planned to invite me. She wanted me to know that I wasn't part of this family, that Emily still was. I smiled. A slow, knowing smile. And then I said, Oh, so I'm not part of the family? The table went silent. Ryan's mom's fake smile faltered for just a second before she composed herself. Oh, honey, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. It's just a tradition, dear. I'm sure you understand. I took a sip of my wine, and that's when I decided. I wasn't going to let her win. She wanted to put me in my place? Fine. It was time to remind her exactly who she was dealing with. The tension at the table was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ryan's mom was still wearing that smug little smile, clearly waiting for me to either sulk in silence or lash out in frustration. She had done this before. Made little digs, thrown Emily in my face. But this time, she had gone further. She hadn't just invited Emily to dinner. She had positioned her as if she was still part of the family, deliberately excluding me from a trip I hadn't even known existed. This wasn't about tradition. It was about making sure I knew I wasn't welcome. But instead of reacting the way she expected, I simply leaned back in my chair, swirling my wine in my glass, and smiled. If she wanted to play games, I was about to show her exactly who she was dealing with. Keeping my voice light, I casually mentioned to Ryan that he should probably tell his parents about my family. There was a slight pause before he caught on, smirking as he turned to his parents. With an almost lazy confidence, he finally said the words that would shatter the illusion his mother had carefully built. My father was James Westwood. The name landed like a grenade in the middle of the table. The room fell completely silent. Even the clinking of silverware stopped. Ryan's mother froze, her wine glass suspended in midair. His father, who had been largely indifferent up until now, suddenly straightened in his chair, eyes widening slightly. Emily, who had been quietly observing, looked stunned, her carefully composed expression faltering. Everyone at the table knew that name. James Westwood wasn't just another businessman. He was one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, a man whose name carried weight in every major industry. My family didn't just have money. We had influence. Ryan's mother was the first to recover, though not gracefully. She let out a nervous little laugh, placing her wine glass down with exaggerated care, as if stalling for time. Her tone shifted almost immediately, her usual condescension suddenly replaced with an artificial warmth. She gushed about how she had no idea and how she would love to meet my father, as if that erased the way she had treated me for the past 2 years. Ryan's father, however, seemed genuinely interested. He leaned forward slightly, muttering something about following Westwood Tech for years and admiring the way my father had built his empire. He was already connecting the dots, realizing that the woman his wife had dismissed as not good enough was, in reality, far beyond what she had imagined for her son. For the first time that night, Ryan's mother didn't have control of the conversation, and I could see the realization hit her. This entire time, she had treated me like I was beneath them. She had made it painfully clear that she thought Emily was the superior choice, had gone out of her way to make me feel like an outsider. And now, in the span of a single sentence, the power had shifted entirely. She had spent years trying to push me out of the family, and now she was desperate to pull me back in. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. A connection to the Westwood family would be something she could boast about, something she could use. But I had no intention of letting that happen. Pushing my chair back, I carefully placed my napkin on the table and stood up. For a moment, Ryan's mother seemed confused, waiting for me to say something that would reassure her that things could go back to the way they were. Instead, I calmly told her that I had been thinking about skipping these family dinners from now on, since, after all, I wasn't part of the family. Her smile faltered instantly, the fake warmth evaporating as reality sank in. Ryan's father cleared his throat awkwardly, suddenly very interested in his plate. Emily avoided eye contact completely, probably realizing that she was no longer in the position she thought she was. Ryan, on the other hand, was clearly enjoying every second of this. Without waiting for a response, I turned to him and told him we had our own plans, then walked away, leaving his mother sitting there, speechless for the first time in her life. The moment Ryan and I stepped outside, the tension that had been building all evening finally started to fade. The cool night air felt like a relief after the suffocating atmosphere at that dinner table. Ryan reached for my hand, his fingers lacing through mine, and let out a quiet chuckle, like he had just witnessed something truly entertaining. There was no need to ask what he was thinking. His amused expression said it all. For the first time in his life, he had seen his mother completely speechless. But while he seemed to be enjoying the moment, I could already feel my phone buzzing in my purse. Once, twice, then a flood of notifications. I didn't even need to check to know exactly who was trying to reach me. By the time we got home, Ryan's mother had left multiple missed calls and a string of texts, all of them laced with an air of forced concern. She claimed there had been a misunderstanding, that she hadn't meant to exclude me, that she valued me as part of the family. It was obvious what was happening. Now that she understood exactly who I was, she was scrambling to rewrite history. Ryan barely glanced at the messages before rolling his eyes, unimpressed. He didn't even bother trying to explain her behavior. He had seen it enough times before to know that this was just another attempt at control, another way to pull the narrative back in her favor. For the first time, though, she wasn't just trying to manipulate him. She was trying to manipulate me. The real confirmation of that came the next morning when Ryan's father called. His voice carried the familiar tone of someone stuck in an uncomfortable position, someone who had been pushed into making this call. There was no need to guess who had sent him to do damage control. He hesitated at first, then started talking about how his wife was really upset about what had happened the night before. She apparently felt that things had been taken out of context, that there had been a miscommunication, and she wanted to sit down and talk things through over the weekend. Ryan's reaction was immediate. He didn't see the point. This wasn't a single misunderstanding. It was part of a pattern, a repeated effort to undermine our relationship. And while she had gotten away with it for years, this time she had overplayed her hand. His father, though clearly uncomfortable, tried to reason with him. He pointed out that she hadn't expected the news about my family, as if that somehow justified the way she had treated me. And that was the real issue, wasn't it? She had never considered the possibility that I could be someone important. She had dismissed me entirely, so convinced that I was beneath her son that she never even bothered to ask about my background. And now, faced with the reality that she had miscalculated, she wasn't trying to make amends. She was just trying to regain control of the situation. Ryan glanced at me, silently asking if I wanted to respond. I didn't hesitate. If his mother truly wanted to fix things, then it had to start with an actual apology, not one of those hollow, "I'm sorry you felt that way" apologies that weren't really apologies at all. Not just to me, but to Ryan as well. Otherwise, there was nothing left to talk about. His father didn't argue. After a long pause, he simply said he would let her know. And that was it. Ryan and I exchanged a glance. This wasn't over. Not even close. Ryan and I walked out of that dinner feeling lighter, like we had finally closed a door that had been open for way too long. His mom had tried to manipulate the situation, but she had underestimated just how much I saw through her. There was no genuine apology, just an attempt to rewrite the story now that she knew I wasn't someone she could brush off. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, and the last person I expected was on the other end. Emily. Her voice was sugary sweet, way too forced. "Hey, I know this is out of the blue, but I was wondering if we could meet for coffee." I nearly laughed. Coffee? After everything? Instead, I kept my voice neutral. "Why?" She hesitated, then gave a soft little chuckle, like we were old friends. "I just think we got off on the wrong foot. There's no reason for things to be tense between us, you know?" Tense? This woman had willingly let herself be used as a pawn in Ryan's mom's power games for years, showed up to a dinner she knew I was attending, and smiled while they planned a family trip without me. And now, suddenly, she wanted to clear the air? "Yeah. No thanks. I'm good," I said simply. She tried again. "I really think we should talk. It's about Ryan's mom." That made me pause. I sighed, already knowing this was going to be another ridiculous attempt at damage control. "Fine. 1 hour. I picked a coffee shop close to my place. Somewhere public, but casual. If this was some kind of setup, at least I'd be able to walk away easily. Emily was already there when I arrived, dressed perfectly as always, her makeup flawless, her outfit carefully put together in a way that said effortless wealth. I sat down across from her, skipping the fake pleasantries. "So? What's this about?" she exhaled, as if deeply burdened by the weight of the situation. "Look, I'm just going to be honest. Ryan's mom is really upset. She feels like you misunderstood her intentions." I stared at her. "Her intentions?" Emily nodded, leaning forward slightly like we were conspirators in some secret plan. "She didn't mean to push you out. She's just old-fashioned, you know? She likes to keep traditions alive, and she feels like you're not giving her a chance to make things right." I let out a slow breath, barely stopping myself from laughing. This was so transparent. Ryan's mom had tried and failed to manipulate me directly, so now she had sent in backup. Someone she thought I might be more willing to listen to. Someone who she still believed had some kind of importance in Ryan's life. I tilted my head slightly. "Did she send you?" Emily hesitated, just for a second, before saying, "She just wanted me to help smooth things over." I had to give her credit. She almost made it sound innocent. Almost. "Let me guess," I said, tapping my fingers against my coffee cup. "She wants to officially invite me on the family trip now?" Emily perked up, like she thought she was finally getting somewhere. "Actually, yes. She realized it was wrong to leave you out, and she really wants you to be there." I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I leaned back in my chair, giving her a small, knowing smile. "You mean, now that she knows who my father is, she suddenly wants me to be part of the family?" Emily's smile wavered. "It's not like that. It's exactly like that." She fidgeted slightly, adjusting the ring on her finger. "Look, I'm just trying to help. I don't want there to be tension." I studied her for a moment, then asked something I had been wondering for a while. "Emily, do you still have feelings for Ryan?" Her eyes widened slightly. "What? No, of course not." Then why are you still involved in his mom's schemes? Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. That moment of silence told me everything. She didn't love Ryan. She loved the approval she got from his mother, the way she was treated like the golden choice, the ideal partner. She wasn't still playing this game because she wanted Ryan. She was playing it because she wanted to win. And suddenly, I realized something. Emily and Ryan's mom, they weren't that different. They both had their own reasons for needing me to stay in my place. But that wasn't going to happen. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, and stood up. Thanks for the chat, Emily. But if Ryan's mom wants to talk to me, she can do it herself. Her face flickered with something. Frustration, maybe, or even defeat. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out, leaving her sitting there with the realization that whatever game they were playing, I wasn't playing along. After my meeting with Emily, I knew Ryan's mom wouldn't stop until she had the last word. But I was done playing defense. It was time to end this. So, I made a decision. I invited her to meet, on my terms. No family dinner, no fake warmth, no Emily running interference. Just her and me. When she arrived, she was all smiles, like she thought I had finally come to my senses. She started with the usual, how she never meant to exclude me, how she was so happy to finally have me as part of the family. I let her talk. Then I leaned forward and told her the truth. I'm not interested in being part of a family that only values me because of my last name. Her smile faltered. I kept going. You spent years making it clear I wasn't good enough. Now you want to change the story? I'm not playing along. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. This is how it's going to be. I'll be in Ryan's life. You don't have to like me, but you will respect me. And if you can't, then you don't get to be part of our future. Silence. She realized she had lost. Ryan and I left that meeting stronger than ever. His mom? She learned that respect isn't given. It's earned, and she had a long way to go. And as for Emily, she faded into the background, exactly where she belonged.